Welcome to Evangelicalish, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American evangelical church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. And make sure and stay current on ish happenings on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ish. Now to Paul, Jeremy, and April on this episode of Evangelical-ish. All right, welcome to the show. There we are.
Terrible angle. I rebuke this.
In the name of Jesus.
For those of you who are listening in audio, we came on extreme close-ups of all of us for a goof for Halloween. That is, so happy Halloween and happy trunk or treat to you Christians out there. I
Harvest
am Paul.
Fest. Oh, I'm April.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I'm here. I'm alive. It's good.
You got raptured and Jesus spit you back out.
Yeah, he was like, that's enough. We didn't want this one. Send him back. Yeah. So yeah, no, good to see everybody for sure. And happy well, tomorrow I guess is Dia de los Muertos, right?
The Day of the Dead. Is it November 2nd?
Tomorrow?
I don't remember. I should know this. I was a Spanish minor.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Actually, I think it's celebrated on November 1st and 2nd.
So
look at this one. We should get Olivia Plath for the show. She is a follower of mine, just so you know. If you guys know who Olivia Plath is.
Nice.
They had a show called, I think, Welcome to Plathville, and it was one of those families with like a dozen kids, all homeschooled, and Olivia married the oldest son, and they were kind of doing their own part of the show. But I just saw this week she and her husband decided to go their separate ways.
I don't think I know who she is, but now I'm gonna look her up.
Yeah,
very cool.
Oh, it says the show is still airing, and they are a Gothard family.
Oh yeah, so they're a part of the cuckoo train that is the Gothard bunches, huh?
The shiny happy people.
The shiny happy people. Oh man. Well, it's good to be back. I'm excited to be back. I'm
excited that you're back. It's just not the same without the gang.
I know it's better. When I'm not here, I get that.
No, it is no. That is not what. No, it is not the same in the negative sense of that phrase. But I do see how that could be open into interpretation, kind of like the Bible.
Imagine that. Yeah, and I'm sure our friends in the community can decide that for themselves. But man, good to see everybody. I appreciate those of you who were kind of shouting out on Facebook and just checking on me and my family. We're good. We're just kind of just going through life and some of the curveballs that it throws occasionally. So it's been a challenging season for sure, but it's been a good one. And we're kind of, I was telling Paul and April before the show, we're kind of coming into a new season of normal, which is what I don't even know what that means, but normal nonetheless. So that's
normal good. Isn't coming back. Jesus is. I don't know if you've seen that.
You started the show rebuking things, and then
Halloween was last night, so the evangelical rose to the surface.
Did you reconvert or something while
I
was gone?
Oh, you know what though? There were a couple. One house gave my kids a water bottle for trick or treat. Like they gave them candy, and they're like, "You want a free water bottle?" And of course, my kids were like, "Yeah!" And on it was a QR code, and it said, "The real story of Jesus. Find here."
Oh.
And so I definitely clicked it, or I QR code it, scanned it, whatever. And it was like a 9-minute animated video, which of course it was not the real story. I mean, it was the same story that we've all heard. And hell was emphasized. You get, if you don't accept Jesus, you go to hell, and the crucifixion and all that stuff. But then
did it say like no matter what anybody says, Jesus is a white American, you don't listen to anybody else?
It did not say that. But okay. I do think Jesus looked a little white in the animation. I don't know. But There's a big button underneath it that was like, I prayed the prayer. And so it's so easy to just click it. And then they literally had a count, like a mega
Oh
church, of
my
how many people
gosh.
prayed the prayer and how many people visited the site. But underneath it, it said, click here to chat with a real Jesus follower. And I was so tempted. I actually was going to do it and just like record my conversation. I really want to hear them talk about intersex people, but I haven't done it yet. But I might still because I saw the QR code.
You should.
But
You should. That's exciting that they're counting conversions through a QR code. How
yeah, you
21st
just click a
century is
button
that?
and that counts as a conversion.
That's
And you
it.
know,
So
whatever pastor's running that's going to be like, we had 10,000 conversions from our
yeah,
QR code ministry.
some deacons just up like clicking the same thing over and
You
over all night to
totally-
run the numbers up.
That's definitely happening.
It's like, I bet if you ran all the numbers of everybody that got saved at Billy Graham crusades, like the entire world got saved twice over,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One house, I don't know about y'all. This is the first I've ever seen this, but one house that we went to last night, they had tequila shots for the adults.
Oh,
And I partook and it was nice.
That's pretty cool.
I know. I was like, can you just imagine if we all got together and like each, maybe not every house, because we don't want to get like plastered, but just like every few houses had just a shot just to keep you going.
by the end of the tour,
be a
you would
party.
be pretty happy.
By about 5 houses in, you'd be like, all right, kids. Mom's gonna need some of that candy.
Do you know what? Like, we had almost no trick-or-treaters at all last night, and I went on social media and it was a thing. So I don't know if something has happened in our area that kids are not going out and trick-or-treating too much. I don't, again, maybe we got them all saved and they're all going to trunk or treat instead. I don't know.
Do you normally get a lot of trick-or-treaters?
Yeah, we have a neighborhood where a lot of used to be a lot of cars would come in to the neighborhood from other neighborhoods and hit all the houses, and so no.
Weird. There were definitely
Not
lots
like
of
it.
kids out where we were. Did y'all go trick-or-treating, Jeremy?
We did. We took our crew out trick-or-treating last night, and I usually decorate my truck up, and we kind of throw them in the this is so Oklahoma now that I'm saying this out loud. We put them in the bed of the truck and kind of drive around because our neighborhood is like it's just normal lots, but it's kind of it's just a bigger residential neighborhood, and so some of our trick-or-treating places are kind of spread out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll go and hit a few houses and then go on to another block or whatever. And so we'll just drive around and play music, and, kids love it. My youngest got one of those blow up costumes and was SpongeBob. She was super cute. And then my son was the Oogie Boogie Man. And so they were all super cute last night. It was a blast. We had a really good time, but I kind of noticed the same thing, Paul. There weren't as many families out last night. Maybe our weather wasn't great, but then also I think just being in the middle of the week, kind of is challenging.
That's true. We had fabulous weather last night, so it was perfect weather. But yeah, I didn't think of that. Maybe on a Tuesday night, it makes it a little tough. But for us, it used to be like at 5:45, 6 o'clock, we would get all the little kids coming in their cute little outfits, and then by like 9:30, you're getting the 18-year-olds who like just have a mask and a pillowcase, and fill it up.
Yeah. I kind of dig it. They could be out doing a lot of other nonsense. And so, you got to love it when they're just, out having good, wholesome fun like that. And maybe they're not, but like, it's just, I don't mind. I'll give candy to anybody,
Oh, I'm a big fan of that. I went trick-or-treating one time when I was in college, my sophomore year of college, because I was at that really strict Assemblies of God school. So we literally weren't allowed to do anything else. We're like, well, we might as well go trick-or-treating. And we definitely got some weird looks, but there were like several houses that were just cheering us on, and we're like, do y'all go to Sagu? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, this makes sense. They just gave us some candy. They felt bad for us.
Start throwing those like airplane bottles, those shots into your bag, and they're like, this is for later.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to drink though, even if you were of age. Like you could be 25 at that college, you weren't allowed to drink.
Did you have to sign like a life covenant
Yeah, you had
contract
at
thing.
this school, you had to sign a life covenant that also that you wouldn't even eat at a restaurant that had a bar. I don't know how they were gonna enforce that. Like, the
Oh my
rules of the
gosh.
school were ridiculous. But then also you had to go to an Assemblies of God church that you had to, like, I don't know that they necessarily enforced that, but that was definitely in the handbook.
Yeah.
Well, and that's at Evangel, which both of us attended for a short time. That you 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 couldn't be in your dorm room on a Sunday morning, and only seniors could live off campus. So you had to go somewhere on Sunday morning.
We
Yeah.
had to we had to have a letter from a recognized Southern Baptist church stating that we were regular attenders and in good standing as members and like all of that kind of stuff. And it was
Oh,
pretty wild.
it's like a prison. It's just so
Yeah.
controlling every aspect of your life. Like, I
Yeah.
finally get out of my parents' house, and I had more rules
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
college.
You had more freedom as like a junior and senior in high school than you did in
Oh
college.
my gosh, yeah.
Did you guys see the picture on our Facebook page? Somebody posted these people with a handwritten note. We're Christians. We do not celebrate the devil's holiday, and we will not give candy out to freeloaders. I just thought that was that Christian
Yeah.
love, man.
What is
Yeah.
it about, like I love how there's these, like, there's some very strong anti-Halloween evangelicals out there, but it's almost like they're surprised every October when the exact same things happen. They're like, "Oh, the devil! Why are kids dressed like the devil? There's signs of ghosts and demons. It's like the Satan's just out. Satan's not even hiding anymore." Like, this has been Halloween every year, forever. Like, ever
Yeah.
since we celebrated Halloween. It's not getting any worse. It's the same.
He hadn't been hiding in years. He's just been in your pulpit for most weeks. So,
Mhm.
you know.
And by the way, the only pagan holidays that Christians celebrate are Christmas and Easter. So enjoy.
Yeah. No,
Some
that's
Christians
exactly
don't even
right.
celebrate those. Shout out Jehovah's Witness.
No. Are they considered Christians?
Yes.
They would consider themselves Christians for
I
sure.
I
think
mean,
that's
we
I think that's
consider them
probably
a
accurate.
cult, but yes,
Right.
they're Christians.
And Mormons do as well. So,
Yeah.
but the other thing is, I've seen quite a few women saying Halloween is the one night of the year you can go out dressed like a slut, and no other woman will judge you for it.
Who said that?
I actually saw like 3 different creators on social media do thing where they showed their outfit and had, it's where you have like one of the voices talking from somebody
True,
else.
but that's not true in evangelical circles. You will still get judged
You
heavily,
still, yeah.
no matter what day it is
Yeah.
or what holiday it is.
Oh,
You
it's a
didn't
line
dress up
from
as a
Mean
Duggar.
Girls, says Kate
Yeah.
in the comments.
I was like, that does sound familiar, but it didn't sound Christian. I was like, I don't know who's saying that. Well, anything else for catch up time before we
Catch
dive
up.
in?
Happy Halloween. And our
Belated.
Jeremy, you weren't with us when we spoke to a witch. That a
Right.
couple of weeks ago or last week?
A couple weeks ago.
And that was one of our most listened to shows ever, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Most downloaded.
Yeah. Yeah. The episodes the last few weeks have been great. Some amazing guests and some really interesting conversation. And just, a lot of thought provoking stuff. And so I've loved where, I've loved where we've kind of taken our community and kind of just continued to open up the world to, so many different thoughts and ideas. And, it's a good time for that, because I think we need diversity of thought right now. So, absolutely great. As far as the content the last few weeks that I've been gone. And so it's been a lot of fun to just be a listener and enjoy that for sure.
You've also been very missed, but I am glad that you're back tonight for our topic. This topic is not new to us,
And let me
but it's a new person.
Yeah.
In this.
And last week I had said David Gushy was going to be our guest tonight. That was incorrect. David Gushy, who is pretty well-renowned Christian ethicist, will be with us next Wednesday. he has a new book out called Defending Democracy from Its Christian Enemies, which is a provocative title. And that is, as April said, our topic tonight, because there is a new Christian enemy of democracy who is now ascended to the number 2 position behind the president.
He is 2 heartbeats away
from president.
Yep.
Which is
the
scary.
New Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
His name is Mike Johnson. And, well, listen in.
Constitutional cover to the elective killing of unborn children in America, period. You think about the implications of that on the economy. We're all struggling here to cover the bases of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all the rest. If we had all those able-bodied workers in the economy, we wouldn't be going upside down and toppling over like this. Listen,
the gentleman,
I will not yield. I will not. Roe was a terrible corruption of America's constitutional jurisprudence.
I am a Bible-believing Christian. Someone asked me today in the media, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my world.
Truth has been replaced as the greatest virtue in society by tolerance. Well, we're the inherently intolerant ones who say, wait a minute, life is sacred because we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. We have to stand up for those. Oh, you bigot. Can't you be a little more open-minded? Come on. That's so like 18th century, Well, they told us that if we didn't maintain those 18th century values, that the republic would not stand. And so this is the condition we find ourselves in today.
At the end of the day, we have to protect the right of the citizens to protect themselves, and that's the Second Amendment. And that's why our party stands so strongly for that. This is not the time to be talking about legislation. We're in the middle of that crisis right now. In Europe, they use vehicles to mow down crowds at parades, where they've done that here in the United States. It's not the weapon, it's the underlying problem. I believe we have to address the root problems of these things, and mental health, obviously, as in this case, is a big issue.
The allegations about these voting machines, some of them being rigged with this software by Dominion. Look, there's a lot of merit to that. And when the president says the election is rigged, that's what he's talking about, that the fix was in.
MAGA is ascendant. And if you don't think that moving from Kevin McCarthy to MAGA Mike Johnson shows the ascendance of this movement and where the power in the Republican Party truly lies, then you're not paying attention. But they are crying, they are hand-wringing and bedwetting.
I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one that raises up those in authority. This is my belief.
And he doesn't own that belief, though, because he tried really hard to overturn the 2020 election. So God didn't put Joe Biden in authority. The little asterisk excludes Democrats.
Liberals go to hell.
Yeah. Exclusions apply.
Romans 13, 1-5 only applies to Republicans. Remember that.
Yeah. You notice they stopped quoting that verse when a Democrat's president, but they quoted it so much when Trump was president.
And they demand, ad nauseum. And then they demand prayer for, you shouldn't be criticizing Trump. You should be praying for Trump, when he was president. Well, now all they do is, thump the Bible and criticize any left-wing leadership. And look, I just want to know, does Mike Johnson pray in a sincere way daily for Joe Biden and his administration, as he's called to by Scripture? Because he said, this is his quote. He said that, just pick up a Bible and I do what it says. So he, apparently
let's test that theory.
Yeah.
Kind of flip to a random page in the Bible and let's see what we got. Over all the barren heights in the desert, destroyers will swarm. For the sword of the Lord will devour from one end of the land to the other. No one will be safe.
Nice.
That's his worldview.
And
Nice.
which version of the Bible are we talking about? I have the pirate Bible here.
What is a pirate Bible?
So
Arg.
I've never heard of this.
Somebody literally took the Bible, put it into an AI, and asked for it to translate the Bible into pirate speak. And this came out, and so they made it, and somebody sent it to me as a joke because I like pirates, and so I thought it was pretty funny. But then I actually bought a copy upon reading the reviews on Amazon, where the Christians had found it, and they were angry and bitter that we were defiling the word of God by putting it into pirate language. And so,
Yeah, as if it's not translated into English.
right, exactly.
Jesus spoke English.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good enough for Paul. It's good enough for me. Yeah.
I mean, when people used to say to me, Romans 13, you got God put Trump in all, you got to honor authority because God put him there. I would always say, oh, so God put Nancy Pelosi in charge of the House. Awesome. And God put Gavin Newsom in charge of California. Great. And then they'd be like, no. So it's funny. Like we have somebody saying the election was stolen in the comments, but it's interesting to me that there are places where they say the election was stolen from Trump, that Republicans won elections on those same ballots, and they don't say those were stolen. Just Trump was stolen.
Yeah.
Everything else was on the up and up where the Republicans won.
Yeah. Read some stories about Lyndon Johnson getting into the Senate back in the 50s and 60s. It's pretty rough out there, and it's just sad that a party is being it's ultimately being ran by 8 crazies. These super hyper MAGA
Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, Matt Gaetzes of the world, and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the ilk. And they're holding the party up. And so here we are in the middle of, and this is I think for me, this is the hardest thing to watch as an American. Let's take the worldview out of it for a second and just realize, we had so many things that need to be legislated during this time. There's so much going on in the world. There's so much going on in our country. And the issue is that these things are being just swept aside while the Republicans can't get out of their own way. And so they've landlocked anything that could possibly happen. And that includes aid for, foreign affairs and just different things like that. So it is harming not just our country, but it's harming the world. And for them to be, kind of having this like cat fight inside of their own caucus is just, it's asinine, and it's un-American. Honestly, you can miss me with your patriotism at that point.
Well, and Mike Johnson, and he has repeatedly said over his career that he believes that the separation of church and state is really more of a myth, and that it was really to protect the church from the government interfering with the church, not the other way around. Which is terrifying on its own.
Somebody's been reading David Barton.
No, David Barton is one of his top inspirations. He's talked about David Barton. And David Barton, by the way, said that he believes that public schools, the number one job of a public school is to teach kids to love God, to love and serve God, and then second, to love and serve their country. Number one and number two. Forget math, forget reading. That's David Barton, who is Mike Johnson's, aspiration.
We can make light of this, and I have a video coming tomorrow where I'm like, oh, if just read the Bible, and that's what I believe. And so it's like, happy are those who dash babies' heads against the rocks and split pregnant mothers open, and if you're if an adulteress and an adulterer are caught, they should be killed. And then Jesus said, and if you look on a woman lustfully with your eyes, you've committed adultery. So therefore, if I'm in Target and a woman on a magazine cover catches my eye, then I not only need to gouge out my eye, but she and I must be killed according to the Bible. So
yeah. Well, these men, these white Christian nationalists, they are not following the Bible literally like they claim they do, because none of them only have one eye.
Right.
Yes.
They are a bunch of walking out. There's too many walking around with both eyes still intact.
And in the Bible, it says men shouldn't cover their heads, but women, must cover their heads. And but Mike, so we make jokes about it. But this is a man who has literally spoken and said, not only should gay marriage be outlawed, but gay sex should be outlawed. He wants to criminalize gay sex. His wife, I don't know if you guys heard this one, she had a website that she took down the day after he became House Speaker of a business that she has, which is a counseling business, although she's not a certified counselor.
Of course
and
not.
they help people, including, and the website basically said, we help people who are involved in homosexuality, bestiality, incest. You know, she compared all of those and, of course, took the website down. But these are people out of a theology called dominionism. And they believe that means Christians are supposed to take dominion over the systems of culture and input biblical law into place. And so while we can laugh about it, it is an absolutely scary philosophy of Christians who believe they are supposed to take over government and put the Bible into civil code.
I think when I was reading some of Mike Johnson's like past quotes and even like quotes he said this week, what was really unsettling for me was that me like 15 years ago, like there was a time in my life where I've said very similar things and I would have seen nothing wrong with wanting to lead the country based on the Bible, based on the biblical worldview, which I didn't know at the time because I thought evangelicalism was Christianity and that there weren't any other versions of it. But what that really means is white conservative evangelicalism. Protestant specifically, like we make room for Catholics some, but there was some very anti-Catholic stuff in evangelicalism too. So it's this very narrow sect of Christianity within the global church. And
well, in the Assemblies of God, we thought Baptists were going to hell. So it is a very thin
See, we didn't think Baptists were going to hell. We just thought that they weren't like doing God's best, but like God had grace for them because they got the essentials right, but they like missed the.
Okay, that's fair.
But I will say, but there were definitely others that thought like in order to be saved, you had to speak in tongues. So depending on your level of fundamentalism, I guess. But regardless,
did you ever think somebody should go to jail for having same gender sexual intimacy?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember thinking about that. I just remember thinking like, yeah, obviously we shouldn't have gay marriage because think of the children and think of, and like, I don't even know. I don't think I could have even have articulated why I wanted that other than everyone told, like, that's what everyone around me believed. And that's what, quote unquote, the Bible said, which the Bible doesn't even really say that, to that level. But it was just really, I guess, humbling to realize like he's just perpetuating the stuff that I used to believe. And I think the scariest part is I believe that he really believes it.
Yeah.
And that's, because I do think there are people that manipulate for power and don't necessarily, and are hypocrites and don't necessarily believe what they believe. But then there are those who are like genuine believers and believe that they are sent on this mission from God and that in order for, Jesus to come back, you have to be able to have control of all the different, like the 7 mountain mandate, like Christians have to have control of like the 7 main influences, spheres of the world for Jesus to come back. So it's like this, they think they have this mandate from God to control the world and enforce their beliefs onto other people. So, and even when they say like religious freedom, that's a dog whistle for just Christian freedom, because they don't want religious freedom for Muslims or Judaism or Hindu or any other religion. It's just for Christianity, specifically Protestant evangelicalism.
Which, I mean, to be clear, that is ultimately why settlers came to the United States in the first place, was because they were under the tyranny of, and that's also a historical debate, but they felt marginalized by their government and the state church, right? The Church of England. So it was, they wanted to be able to practice as Quakers and those kinds of things. And so it was for initially set up for the concept of religious freedom, meaning inclusivity for thoughts and different worldview beliefs. But what's happening is that we're seeing evangelicals and hyper fundamentalists try to turn this back into something where we have a theocracy in essence, and a state-run church. And so that is exactly the antithesis of the founding of America and what the founding fathers were about in the first place. So it's a swing and a miss all the way around. I can guarantee you, if you go back and of course, Thomas Jefferson, obviously his downfalls are are written throughout history, but also he had a very different view of Christianity. George Washington had a very different view of Christianity than so many of us in modern evangelicalism would hold. And so it's interesting, this every jot and tittle, that the Bible is inerrant and infallible, and we must live by this exact code, when really there's not clarity. I mean, to go back to Mike Johnson's point, and I know you were talking about making kind of a funny video about this tomorrow, Paul, but to be brutally honest, like, there is not that clarity within the context of Scripture. There's just not. And so you cannot say we are running our morals just basically on this alone, because the morals are unclear.
If the Bible was clear, there wouldn't be 46,000 Christian denominations in the world today.
Right.
That doesn't even include the ones that don't exist anymore, like the Shakers, who didn't believe in having sex and procreation and just died off because they didn't have any more kids.
Is that why they call them the Shakers? Is that like is that like Mormon
aggression?
Is that soaking? Like,
I think they were just like.
Is that where they bounce on the bed?
Yeah.
That's soaking.
Yeah, that's soaking, and I feel like Shakers might fall in that same realm of possibilities.
Who knows?
I ask fundamentalist Christians all the time, how I believe the Bible. If the Bible says it, I believe it. And I'm like, how do you decide which verses you get to ignore and which ones you have to follow? And they're like, I follow them all. Well, 1 Peter 2 says, slaves, obey your masters, even the ones that aren't kind. Romans 13, 6 and 7, they talk about 1 through 5 all the time. 6 and 7 says, gladly pay your taxes, because God put the person in charge of you. You should pay your taxes. I rarely hear Christians quote that verse. And there are so many others, that Jesus said, hey, the kingdom is only for those who feed the poor, feed the hungry, clothe the poor, and visit the prisoner in prison. If you don't do that, you don't get to go into the kingdom. So clearly, I assume now Mike Johnson said there he wants to go back to 18th century morals. So maybe he does believe slaves should obey their masters, but I'm assuming he's not in favor of slavery. So that very statement is a joke. And you're right. The scary thing is he truly believes that he's supposed to do this on a crusade. And I use that word intentionally. And when you start to believe that, then you can start to do things like, manifest destiny. Europeans can wipe the indigenous off the land because God has told us to do it. God often through the Bible told the Israelites to wipe out and commit genocide on other people. So therefore we can do it in the right situation. And that is truly scary stuff. And I know a lot of formerly really close friends who believe all of that and who post on Facebook about, let's set up the gallows on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's time to hang, I'm not even going to say the name, but like they'll be saying we need to hang Democrats now on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's horrifying.
Well, and you say that you would assume that Mike Johnson is not about slavery or whatever. We are in a world now where making assumptions over basic human understanding has gone away. I would have never thought that we would see some of the things that we have seen creep and slither into our political system as it has, and into our leaders and the way they act and the way they respond to each other, and the way that the way that there's no morals or decency among political rivals or anything like that. I've kind of gotten to the place where I don't know if we're safe to assume that people don't have major extremist ideas where they want slavery to come back, or they want women to be barefoot and pregnant and, a part of your ownership, right? Like I don't know if we can for sure say that there is any truth out there with any kind of standard for human morals anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw on X, formerly known as Twitter. I still want to call it Twitter. The website is still twitter.com.
I refuse to call it X, but that's
It's literally, yeah. Anyway, there's this.
that's the Karen in me.
There's this new trend in the last week or so that I've seen a bunch of white male pastors praising Robert E. Lee, like going to town being like, Robert E. Lee was a great man of God and we would all do better to be more like him. And like what it just seems so random. Like it's become a whole thing. I'm like, he went to war, wanted to leave this great country that you apparently love now, like was the enemy of the state, and did all of that to own people. And they're hailing him as this great Christian man of God, which I know that, they're just saying the quiet part out loud, which they've been doing a lot more lately. Which on one hand, I at least it's out in the open. It's easier to see. But on the other hand, it's like, well, shoot, that's like, it just seems like really terrible, awful viewpoints and ways of thinking are becoming more socially acceptable. And like the more we hear it, it's less shocking and it becomes more normal. And that's also a scary thing too, because racism, overt racism, should always be bad. I mean, even the subtle stuff too, but like especially when it's just right in your face, and it just seems like people just don't care anymore. They're going to say what they're going to say, and they're going to believe, they're going to stand on it. And they're terrible human beings, and they're talking about Jesus in the middle of it all.
Well, you would think Christians wouldn't support a person that's been found liable for rape to be their candidate for president, but they do. It's hard to believe. And the thing is, I feel like as I read the Gospels that Jesus was faced with, being in a culture where the religious leaders were very political, they were very politically active, and their belief was we need to overthrow the government and put our race and religion in charge so that our country can be made great again. And when our country is great, the economic and military power of the world will be at peace, and things and God's plan will be in place. And to me, that is exactly the belief of the Dominionist, that Christianity has to overthrow the government, become in charge, and make our country great again. And when America is the military and economic power of the world, God's plan is existent on earth. And what happened is then those leaders began to create law that would make them okay, but others would be horrible people. And it reminds me of, here's Christian Lauren Boebert. I want to impose Christian laws into government, but I can go into Beetlejuice and have a guy groping and I'll rub his crotch. So it's rules for thee and not for me is what always comes out of this. It's truly a Christian Animal Farm with these guys.
Yeah, it's a circus, but it's led by so many loud voices that have garnered attention and support. And the more attention and support they've gotten, the crazier the things they say. I know Mark Driscoll is making his rounds again as, somebody that's getting a lot of attention on social media right now. Obviously, Greg Locke has been a staple of the conversation for a while now, but it's these folks that just continue to drive the narrative, and the crazier it gets, the more extreme the things they say. And I think that has to do a lot with, I don't even know if they buy half the stuff they're trying to sell, but it gets them views and clicks and attention. And the harm is not in them saying the things. It's the major harm is in people taking it and then actually believing it and then becoming disciples of this chaos clown behavior. That's ultimately what it is it's that repetition of people, and it's the ripple effect that we have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's so just I feel like if you read the entire Bible, especially if you're a follower of Jesus and you mainly just read Jesus's words, I feel like the main takeaway should just be care for other people. Like, don't be a dick. Be kind. Love your neighbor. Like, I feel like that's just pretty typical, like, basic, decent humanity.
Wow.
And they're so, like, there's no love in it, which I know, like, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just become so hateful. Like, it's in their, and I used to be this way. I was so determined to be right and to have the right policies and the right beliefs that my beliefs mattered more than my character and my actions. When that just seems so backwards because belief is such an intangible. It's up here. These are ideas. It's how we actually treat people that matter, that make the world a better place or a worse place. And I don't see evangelicals making the world a better place. They're very self-centered. It's about my rights. They're taking, and it's dangerous. And it's not just dangerous here. I mean, even just the verse of like anyone who blesses Israel will be blessed. And so you have all this blind.
The Bible doesn't say that, by the way.
Well, they believe it.
It does not. It never says that. Never.
Yeah, but like you're blindly supporting a country that is like harming an entire group of people, like killing them, and there's just like no empathy, and it's just black and white, and there's no. It's just, well, the Bible says this, God's on this side, and it's just like taking sides. Like if God is as big as we've been told that God is, and if God created the entire universe, that's a big God. I don't think the God who also created all the other galaxies and who knows what other life is out there is taking sides in politics and in countries' wars. Like, he's going to care about all of his creation or her creation or their creation. It's just so dangerous, and it's really small-minded. You think you're doing this big thing and like, oh, God is a big God, but the evangelical God is very small. The evangelical God doesn't have room for intersex people to exist. It's either male or female, even though intersex people do exist. They just, oh no, we're just going to ignore that.
And we'll act like nothing to see there.
Yeah.
I would say, April, that we
pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
We would celebrate every bad thing that happened in the world because Jesus is coming soon. Jesus is coming soon. So we were always looking for the bad stuff and celebrating it because that meant Jesus was coming soon, and we would get taken out of here and we get to laugh at everybody left behind.
Well, and imagine that. So in and of itself, evangelicalism is an oxymoron in that belief, because on one hand, they tell you, we have to reach as many people as we possibly can. We want no one to perish. Like, we want to make everyone a disciple of Jesus so that they can go to heaven. And then on the same hand, they're saying, but we want Jesus to come back and just end this also. We don't have to be a part of this broken world anymore or whatever. And whoever hasn't already, drank the Kool-Aid, come to be a part of the club, well, they be damned. Like, it's about me, and it's about me getting up out of here and having, walking on them streets of gold, eternal glory, and all this kind of stuff. It is the most backwards way of thinking to say that you care about people, and then in the same hand say, but we want Jesus to come back because we're tired of dealing with the bullshit.
I mean, it's literally the story, Jonah saying, God, I don't want to live in a world where you will have mercy on those people.
I knew you would do that. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's Jonah's response. I knew you were going to do that because you're a good God. That's what you do.
I know. I
Give
don't want you to be good
forgiveness.
to these people. They're
Yeah.
terrorists. They don't deserve, your goodness. But by the way, to clarify, I jumped in there, April, that Genesis 12:3, God tells Abraham, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. He does not say that to the nation of Israel.
Right.
And Abraham is the father of Judaism, which begat Christianity according to Christian beliefs. But he also was the father of Ishmael, who is the father of Islam. Abraham is the father of the three major religions of the world.
Right.
And if God didn't like Islamic people or the religion of Islam, all he had to do was Abraham sent Hagar and Ishmael off into the desert to die, and God could have just let them die. But no, God saved Ishmael and Hagar's life, and made huge promises to Ishmael. So this idea that Genesis says you have to support Israel no matter what they do, and I'm not saying not support Israel, but the idea of like we have to support Israel or we'll be cursed as a nation is not biblical. That's not in the text.
We are cursing ourselves as a nation. We don't need to worry about anything else. Like, we have enough problems as it is, looking us square in the face. We can't even take care of the people who are homeless in our communities. We can't take care of the people who are, the orphans. Like, there's a statistic, and this is true in the state of Oklahoma. I don't know if it's true everywhere, but in the state of Oklahoma, if our foster care system is overrun. They cannot find enough foster homes for children who are in the system. If every single evangelical church would adopt one child out of the foster care system, there would be families on waiting lists, not kids. And so you can miss me with all your holier than thou, like, these big revelation type, things. You're not doing the basic things that are the very core foundation of what Jesus said. Widows, orphans, the poor, the hurting, the oppressed. That is the gospel. The gospel is social justice. The gospel is kindness, compassion, humility, meekness. That is the gospel. That is the gospel of Jesus. And the kingdom of heaven is us working as a people who believe in goodness and mercy and grace. It is giving that hope and that resurrection and that life to people around us. And this kind of garbage about, all this end times nonsense and who's going to burn in hell and who's not, all of that is just, it is such a waste of time while we sit here and there are people who are sleeping on the street tonight and there are kids who are not in safe homes because Christians can't be bothered to simply adopt a child. Don't talk to me about your pro-life stances. Don't talk to me about your value of human life.
Preach.
It's so stupid. Like, you can't get the basics right. Like, you don't just walk into high school and go to trigonometry. Like, you have to go through the process and get the basics and the foundation and the understanding. And we don't even just know how to simply love each other unconditionally well. So all this other complex, universal stuff, whatever, stop even worrying about it. Go work at a soup kitchen. Shut up.
Yeah, seriously. People over dogma.
Well,
policy.
we talk about here, we have 5,000 unhoused people in Fresno. The city knows who they are. They are constantly like touching in with them. And we have 500 churches. So if each church took on an average of 10 and took care of their needs, and when I say that, I know there's some churches that might not be able to, and then we have the mega churches who could take 50 of them. Right. And we would have no unhoused in the city. But too many Christians are saying, but the poor you'll always have with you. And they're using that verse to justify not giving a shit. And another thing I loved you said there, Jeremy, is the kingdom of heaven, I think Jesus was clear, is not a place you go one day to walk streets of gold. It's here, and you bring it, you bring it from heaven to earth, and you walk it out just like that.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead, April.
oh, I was going to say, it's the easy way out. It's easy to just spout out what you believe. You don't have to do anything by that. And honestly, I think one of the most detrimental things about evangelicalism
And by the way, April, and vote for an anti-abortion candidate. That's all I have to do to be good.
Yeah. Right. But like, what was I saying?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I lost my train of thought. I'm a mom.
You were saying it's easy to do.
Yes.
I'm so
yeah.
sorry,
What I was going to say, that detrimental thing about evangelicalism is because they say like, oh, it's so easy. It's a free gift. All you have to do is pray this prayer and God forgives you of all of your sins. There's so much emphasis in evangelicalism on just saying a stupid prayer and then you're done. And like, sure, yeah, they talk about righteous living, kind of, but it's more like just say the prayer. Just say the prayer. The emphasis is on saving the prayer. All you gotta do is say the prayer. God will forgive you for everything, which is cool, whatever. But I was like terrified of going to hell that I said the prayer a lot. Yeah. I could have spent that energy of me being scared and having to say that prayer all the time and that I might lose my salvation on helping my neighbor, on going and volunteering at a soup kitchen, on, finding out how to get involved with foster care, like all these different things. But it was just like, that's part of evangelicalism is easy, but it's so easy that people that are in it are like, I'm good. I said my prayer. I go to church. I vote Republican. Check. I'm good. But I also think too, it's just so easy to like point fingers and blame other people for not taking care of the poor. And because I don't remember what the story, it's like a joke. It's kind of a joke. I'm probably going to butcher it, but my dad used to tell this joke all the time of like two really good friends. And one day they're like, man, I'm such a good friend. Like if I had 2 cars, I would give you a car. He's like, man, I feel the same way. Like if I had 2 homes, I would give you a home. And the guy's like, man, that's so great. He's like, what if you had 2 chickens? He's like, no. He said, why? He's like, because I have 2 chickens.
But
that is good.
Yeah, but I mean, the truth is in the joke, right? Like we only laugh to keep from crying because that's reality, and that was the reality in that world was, why would I give of myself? Like when I've got my salvation and I've got my family protected, and it's all about us, and we're gonna build our walls and keep the world out, that kind of thing. And I think this is also why Jesus said, he told he told the guy who was like, hey, I want to follow you, but let me go bury my dad first. And he told him, he said, well, go let the dead bury the dead. Basically what he was saying is what he was challenging the idea of what is family. What is the understanding of a greater concept of love and compassion? We can't do anything more for your dad. He's dead. But what we can do is we can go from town to town and give hope and give life and give restoration. And so, if we are called to love everyone, and that is the call, if we're called to love everyone, then why wouldn't we go and be about that business in the process instead of tribalizing ourselves and pushing everyone else away and only giving to other people out of our comfort, not in places that it's challenging, because that's where real growth happens. That's where real change happens, is when we do things that are challenging and hard for us.
Jeremiah 29:7 is a verse that's always been important in our household. It says, pray for the welfare of your city, for in its welfare you'll find your welfare. Shalom is the actual word there, but welfare. And so, my wife ran for office because she saw the poverty of our city and said, we need to do things to help people live better lives. And we would literally have Christians tell us, hey, that's not our job. The world's evil, man. We just need to get people saved. Our job is to get people saved. I'm like, man, what Bible are you reading? Like, how, you are not reading the Bible of Jesus Christ if your belief is I just need to get individuals saved and get them to heaven, and that's our whole job. You are not reading the Bible. And go ahead, April.
Oh, I was gonna say, it's like, I heard of a church too that wanted to do a dinner for the homeless, to feed the homeless. But they refused to do it unless they could give an altar call and pray with everybody first before they gave them the food. It's like, that's just so messed up. Like, you should just feed them regardless if they want to convert or not.
We used to have we did again, I'm from Oklahoma. We did imagine.
Are you that pastor?
Some days. And so we used to have an outreach thing like for our student ministry when I was a Baptist youth pastor. And we would do, like, it would be a Sunday afternoon, we'd do lunch and paintball. That's what we would do. It's very
Love it.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Cool.
But so we started doing it, and what was happening is a bunch of kids were like just showing up after service and to get the lunch and to play paintball or whatever. Well, then the church throws a fit and they're like, well, from now on, like, you have to set a rule that they have to be in Sunday service for them to get to do any of the other stuff. And so it's that exact same concept. Or, being at a church that has like all this endowment money. Like, I was at a church that had millions of dollars in, like, just crazy money stocked away from, Ethel, who had all this money and died and left it in the church, and, all this kind of stuff. And they would legitimately, like, just scrutinize people who came through the doors asking for help with groceries or utility bills or basic things like that. And, they actually put a policy in place where it was like, if you're on welfare, we won't help you because you're already, quote unquote, getting help. And so it's this thing of like, I'm going to store up, my grain. I'm going to keep my things safe. I'm going to, it's very selfish. Modern evangelicalism is extremely selfish. It's the fire insurance card you get for saying the magic little prayer. Like, okay, now I don't have to go to hell. Like, the most important thing is taken care of. Right. And then from there, it's like, only give to an extent where you're not even uncomfortable or whatever. And so it's so dangerous to have a mindset like that. And I think ultimately, kind of bringing it back full circle, that is my biggest fear in Mike Johnson being the Speaker of the House, in MAGA Republicans continuing to, gain popularity or just to hold office. That's the danger. Is that there are marginalized groups and alienated people who will only continue to get pushed further out and further down by these folks who say that it's in the name of Jesus. And that is so backwards. And that's ultimately my fear for our country, is that we will become so selfish and so self-centered that it'll be about white male evangelicals, and that's it.
If you need an example of that, just look to your left, Oklahoma. There's Arkansas, and Sarah Huckabee is the governor, and Arkansas ranks at the bottom of almost every educational statistic there is. And so what is Sarah doing about it? The Christian governor of Arkansas, she's going to erect a monument to the aborted, and she has outlawed the use of woke in Arkansas. There
what does that mean? Like the word woke?
No, woke language it is. You can't use woke language.
What is woke language to her?
So like gender appropriate pronouns and things like that. So if somebody wants to be identified as they, them, that is not allowed in public forums in Arkansas.
You can't, on a survey or something, gender male, female, there's no other choices that are allowed on any government document in Arkansas now because of her executive order.
So stupid.
And so
literally, why does that matter?
Yeah.
It's like we're like majoring in the minors. It's so stupid.
And when you and
Yeah.
if you hear like Trump speak now, like everything he's sharing now is like, I'm going to ban colleges that have protests, pro-Palestinian protests. I'm going to have death penalty for drug users. I mean, it's this authoritarian, totalitarian. We're going to really punish everybody who disagrees with our white Euro Christian view of evangelicalism.
Yeah, and here in Oklahoma, we're trying to bring PragerU into our classrooms. That's currently what our state superintendent is working on, is implementing PragerU into our instructional mandates for our teachers. And and it's such a far cry from just the basic, again, and not to beat the dead horse, and we've all kind of said it, like it is such a far cry from what the gospel and the words of Jesus truly are. And it is becoming, they want a dictatorship is what they really want.
Yeah, they want a theocracy, not a democracy.
And the only way you can get that is to have a guy like the Hungarian dictator and have him input it.
They love him.
Oh,
they think he's so cool. It's terrible.
And
Terrible.
Putin.
Yeah.
If the really, really important issue that we weren't able to get to today is that Ron DeSantis uses lifts to make himself taller.
Is that fact checked? Because I've seen people tweet about that, but I haven't seen like a news story on it.
So Politico got 3 boot makers and said, can you analyze these photos of Ron DeSantis? And all 3 of them are like, oh yeah, he has lifts in those boots. There's no question about it.
Love that for him. Also, I don't know.
And aren't the dictators always the little short, little generals out there?
Yeah, it's the Napoleon complex, I think, as it would be defined. Now, I am an average height male in the United States. I think that's slowly going away. I'm 5'9", and I feel like every day that gets a little bit shorter. But yeah, it's always dudes who are kind of my height or a little bit shorter that feel like they have to, just own the world or whatever. And maybe we do have a little bit of a, fight complex in us.
And Donald Trump's small hands. Like,
These are
large hands. There's normal to larger sized hands.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was like in the primary of 2016.
In a presidential debate.
Literally, Marco Rubio's like, you know what they say about men with small hands? Like, what pissing contest is this? Like, men. No offense.
I look at the 2012 election between, which, by the way, if you would have ever told me that Mitt Romney was the sound voice in the room for the Republicans.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right. And he is, but it's just so crazy to think how far we've come in a decade from those times when, watching Barack Obama and Mitt Romney debate each other, I felt like we were watching the very best of like who we were as people.
They were adults.
They were adults, but they were opponents who were exchanging ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And challenging other people to think higher and greater, right? We are now, because of our leadership, being sucked down. I mean, what is the deal for, is it Ferris Bueller's Day Out, where it's like at the end, it was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and we're all stupider for listening to it, or, whatever it is.
That's Billy Madison.
Yeah. We're all dumber for listening to it. I feel like every time I turn on a debate or turn on any kind of town hall or anything, I just feel dumber. Like, I feel like my IQ is legitimately going down listening to these yahoos talk. And I can't say I've always felt that way. Love political candidates or hate them, like however you felt about Romney, Obama, Bush, Kerry, Al Gore, name your person. I always felt at least like it was intellectuals talking, people who had higher thinking and education. now I feel like I feel like we're just like watching world star politics. Like it's
Because
just
Trump made his cult following, and he literally gets up on rallies and he's like, huh, does anyone ever notice that the word us kind of could be the US? Like,
US?
did you know that US spells us? Huh, I just thought about that.
I would
And he's like, and everyone cheers. Wow. Wow. And they're like,
he's the
what a
genius.
brilliant mind.
Well, and if you ever
really
watch him,
happened, by the way.
if you watch him speak, he's just throwing out cracky shit, and then saying, people are saying, he'll always say like,
Yeah.
people are saying, or he'll say, this is happening like has never been seen before. I mean, you just listen. He keeps saying those phrases, which means he has no evidence. He has no idea what he's talking about, but he just throws it out there, and Christians are like, Trump said it. Trump said it. So therefore, it's
Not
like you've
just
never
Christians,
seen
there's
before.
Other
It's
people too.
it's like having it's like having a dispute with someone at work, and they come to you and they say something like, well, we've heard some people say that they've got problems with this or that. And my question to that is always, well, who are these people? Like, can you point to them? Like if there's an issue that I need to go resolve, like I would love to do that. They never have names. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. Well, I heard some people say, and the fact that we have people falling for this like circus is so crazy to me. And
well, Jeremy, he did that one interview where the interviewer is like, he's like, well, I just reposted it. I just reposted it. Somebody else posted it. And she's like, but you are the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Like, that's different than Joe Schmo posting something like, and that's it. Like somebody else posted it, so I reposted it.
Yeah.
It's wild. Also, to bring it back full circle to Chris Johnson, not Chris
Mike
Johnson. Mike Johnson. What a vanilla name. Anyway, no offense to any Mike Johnsons that are listening.
I just want to make so many penis jokes. Like,
I know.
It's not even funny
The
how many
GOP
penis
is
jokes.
Johnson. Really small-minded.
John Fetterman, I think, posted that, by the way, that MAGA loves a big Johnson.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. The one I've been workshopping is the GOP puts their Johnson where their mouth is at.
Oh,
whoa,
dirty. Ba-da-ching. Also, speaking of Mike Johnson, this is what I was going to say. This just broke today on a few different news sites, but in all of his financial disclosure forms since 2016 when he joined Congress, he's never listed a single bank account. So, like, according to his financial statements, he does not have a bank account. Neither him, his wife, or any of his kids.
Oh my God.
And he's made like, his wife has an income, and he's made like almost $200K a year with all of his like speaking engagement and Congress stuff. Is he just like either something real fishy's going on, or he just has stacks of cash like under his mattress?
Well, again, it's rules for thee and not for me. If you read about the podium and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, 19K, that it looks like the people of Arkansas paid for her and her besties to go to Paris. And it was listed in the expense report as a podium that is nowhere to be found.
Wow.
But hey, she's a Christian, so it's okay. As long as she's trying to put God in charge of her state, she can do whatever she wants. Rules
that must
don't apply.
Be one amazing podium.
Well,
what do you even get for $19,000 podium?
They showed a picture of it and said it's state of the art, and they named the company. And then the company came out and said, "No, that's not our podium. That's not our podium.
I don't know.
That picture is a knockoff of our podium."
Oh my gosh! The only way that would be worth $19,000 is if, when a Christian nationalist gets up, it just automatically like mutes them. Like no matter what they say, no one can hear them. That would be cool.
That'd be worth 19 grand.
I think I would put my tax money towards that.
And maybe we can get into this in a future show, but it's hard now. Like with all of this going on, my daughter, who is 23, is, she was so excited to vote at 18 in her first election. And now she's like, I don't think I'm going to vote in the next election. And I probably shouldn't tell that story on her, but she just feels like what she voted for didn't happen. And so it's this hard thing of like, yeah, but if you don't vote, then you're helping Trump. But I totally get why young people are like, yeah, but I didn't get what I was promised from Biden either. You know, they didn't say voting
Right.
rights. They didn't
I know.
do the climate change and all this other stuff.
It is
There's
hard because the whole system's corrupt, for one, and Democrats are not great. They are not. They have a lot of problems. But the Republicans right now are like trying to bring in a theocracy. And at that, I'm just like, I will just vote for every Democrat until the Democrats go just as crazy and are trying to turn it into some authoritarian dictatorship. Then I'm like, I'm going to at least vote for them because they are at least trying to look like adults still. Where Republicans are like, I don't even know what they're doing. They're just.
Well, they don't have an identity. That's the problem is that they are in a crisis within themselves, because there's still people who are, you can tell, I mean, like, just not in on this MAGA extremist agenda like the Matt Gaetzes of the world. Not saying that they're much better, but I think that there are definitely people left of Matt Gaetz within that caucus for sure.
Yeah.
And so they don't know what their talking points are right now. And that is going to clearly cause muddy waters anytime, like, you can't get your own house in order kind of thing. So at least the one thing I know for sure is that the Democrats came out and they said, Hakeem Jeffries is our guy. And on every single speaker vote, they have voted hands down for Hakeem Jeffries, every single ballot, every single time.
Which has been multiple times because Republicans, who knows what they're doing.
I mean, what was it? 15?
There's like disagreements within the own party.
Well, and yeah, you're allowed to have different ideas if you're a Democrat.
Sure.
And now if you're a Republican and have different ideas than Trump, you're going to get primaried and you're not going to be able to run, which is why Mitt Romney is leaving and saying the party's gone. The party I was in does not exist anymore.
It's so fascinating hearing some of the things that Romney's saying, some of the things that Liz Cheney has said as she's kind of, obviously just been sent out to pasture by her own party. And so it's just sad that common sense is being alienated and that this extremist nut job stuff, like, I just didn't think it would continue to resonate as far as it has. And now it feels like it's here to stay, which is horrible.
Yeah. Well,
but other than that,
we have Johnson jokes.
All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. We did run a little bit long, but it's been a while since we've been on the air or on the podcast together. So just kind of catching up with all of our favorite folks listening live, and for those of you who be listening on the podcast platform when it goes live. This is episode 95.
Ooh,
by the way, it is. Ooh. Yeah. So episode 100 is coming around the corner, and we're kind of excited about that and just the longevity of the podcast. 100 episodes almost and 64 seasons. We've done so good, guys.
And next week, David Gushy will be with us, renowned Christian ethicist and author of a new book called Protecting Democracy from Its Christian Enemies. So that should be interesting.
It's a great title.
It's a fantastic title. All right. Any final thoughts before we bounce out of here, y'all?
Happy November.
It's all scary sounding, but remember, God's in control.
That's right.
Take a gummy. You need to disassociate and giggle.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, political debates are a lot better if you're high. All right. We'll leave you with that thought. For Paul and April, I'm Jeremy. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. If you're listening on the podcast, do us a favor. If you haven't already, hit the 5 stars, leave a review, let people know why they should be listening to the podcast. It just helps us connect with more people and create a grander conversation. And we are super, super grateful for that. All right.
And great.
And great. We're great. All right. Yeah, I think that's it. So you guys have a great night. Okay, bye.
Bye.